Hello, my name is Tony Beers, and this is Movie Grades.
And just like the movies, we play out our last scene.
Hey everybody, Tony Beers here again, and in this episode of Movie Grades I'm going to talk about Scream Quattro. Now, to be honest, I had very little interest in seeing this movie. Last week I wanted to see Sucker Punch, but it didn't come to our theaters. Plus there were so many bad reviews about it that I just didn't go see it. So this week a friend of mine asked me to see Scream 4, and I was like, I really don't have any interest in seeing it. So he's like, we didn't get to see Sucker Punch last week, so why not try to watch another movie, and let's watch Scream 4. It seemed to be the best movie out this week. And I was like, I don't know, I love the Scream movies, I have all of them. But I thought to myself that the Scream trilogy wrapped everything up nicely. Everything was done. There really wasn't a need for a fourth one, and I was very hesitant about seeing this movie because I didn't see a need for a fourth one. But it's the best movie out right now, so I thought, I'll give it a chance. And, I was pleasantly surprised. So, the basic plot of this movie is that Sidney Prescott, who's the main character from all the Scream movies, comes back to Woodsboro to promote a book that she wrote about her experiences. And when Sidney returns to Woodsboro, it just happens to be the 10th anniversary of the events that happened in the first movie. And, coincidentally enough, someone else returns to Woodsboro. This guy right here. Now, wait a minute. Now, I thought this movie was going to star Shannen Doherty, and the killer was going to be a monkey. Kevin Smith lied to me. Now, as far as the story goes, it's a pretty good story. I really enjoyed it. It's written very well. This movie keeps you guessing to try to figure out who the Ghostface killer actually is. Just like Jamie Kennedy said in the first one, everyone's a suspect. I had my suspicions on a few characters, but every time I would think it would be one character, they would introduce a new character. I was like, it could be this person too. So that's, I think, the best thing about this movie is it really just keeps you guessing. I will give you a slight spoiler and tell you that there is two killers. One of the killers I guessed pretty late into the movie, and the second killer I didn't guess until it was revealed who it was. So that's pretty good that it kept me guessing for that long. The last movie to keep me guessing for that long was the first Saw movie. I was completely blown away when I first saw the first Saw movie. So I would have to say that this movie probably is the best horror movie I've seen since the first Saw movie. One complaint I have about the movie is that there's one part in the very beginning where something happens twice, and you're like, come on, not this again. Now, since this is a horror movie, let me tell you about the horror. I really didn't find it that scary, but then again, I've seen so many horror movies, I'm probably desensitized from being scared that much. There's plenty of jump scares in this movie, and they don't get annoying. Most of them didn't scare me, but I have to admit that some of them actually did. Now, how about the blood and gore? There's plenty of blood and gore, but it's never gratuitous. It's never way too much. It's never way too gory. It's just the right amount for a Scream movie. They never go over the top, which is good, and it's refreshing because a lot of movies recently have just been piling on the gore and just been getting ridiculous with it. And this movie, the blood and the gore, it seems realistic, and it seems like they could really occur in a real life situation. It's never over the top. Now, as far as the kills and the deaths, most of them are pretty standard. Most of them are just a simple stab to the stomach or something like that. But some of these deaths are actually very creative. Now, there's a lot of comedy in this movie, which is one of my complaints about it. There's so many funny moments in this movie that it almost becomes a parody of itself. And the key word there is almost, because when it's time for this movie to get serious, it gets serious and cuts the jokes. Now, how's the acting in this movie? Well, the acting is actually pretty good. Everybody in this movie does a really good job. There's nobody that sticks out as a bad actor. I've noticed there is quite a few good-looking actresses in this movie. For example, we got Kristen Bell, Anna Paquin, and my personal favorite, Hayden Panettiere. Now, this is the first big movie that I've seen Hayden Panettiere in, and she does a great job. Not only is she extremely easy on the eyes, but she's a good actress as well. Now, Courtney Cox returns as Gale Weathers, and I was concerned that she's in her 40s now, and she probably wouldn't look so good on the big screen. She might have a lot of wrinkles or something, but I have to say, she still got it. There's certain scenes in this movie where her blue eyes really stick out, and she looks gorgeous. Now, that's enough of me crushing on these actresses. Now, there's something that I've noticed about these Scream movies, and that's that it has no nudity and no drug use, which is very common among horror movies nowadays. Now, there's nothing wrong with nudity, or drugs for that matter, but this helps Scream stick out amongst other horror movies as being unique. Now, this movie is very aware of itself and the genre that it's a part of. Now, there's an interesting, intense scene in which the killer is asking Hayden Panettiere's character about her favorite horror movies and asking her horror questions. And one question that the killer asks is about horror movie reboots, which this movie kinda is. And before the killer can even ask the question, Hayden Panettiere lists off this very long list of horror movie remakes or reboots. I thought that was funny because it really reflects on what's going on in Hollywood nowadays with how many reboots and remakes there actually is, because she goes through this long list of horror movie reboots and basically saying how there really is not many fresh ideas nowadays. And with Scream 4, it really points out what's wrong with horror movies nowadays, and it brings it back to what horror movies should be. This movie also talks about the internet and how someone can become extremely famous practically overnight. And it shows how in our society someone can be famous by just being a screwed up individual. So if you're a Scream fan, I think you'll enjoy this movie. And for someone who is just learning about Scream, this is a very good jumping on point because you don't really need to know what happened before to enjoy this movie. So, this movie is very good, but I would say it's not perfect. So, I would give this a solid B. My name is Tony Beers, and I'll see you next time.